So, welcome to everybody who's already here for the Microsoft Fabric User Group Denmark. And today we have the great pleasure of doing Empowering Data Engineers with Microsoft Fabric and Dipankar Paul. And thank you so much for being with us here. So a few things that I just have to say before we get started is to let everybody know that this session will be recorded and it will also be made available on the LinkedIn group. So if you don't want to be recorded, your comments and so forth, then, you shouldn't be on this user group meetup. For this reason, we're also asking everybody to be, of course, kind, respectful, and polite. So if you have questions, please raise your hand or put your comments in the chat, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Now, in addition to this, we're also asking you to please answer the feedback mail from the meetup. We always want to be better. We always want to learn and improve. So that would be a great help. Today with us, we have Dipankar Paul, and Dipankar comes with 14 years of experience. You've been in Denmark for many years with many of the greatest companies in Denmark, working in IT and specializing in business intelligence. So it's not just business intelligence, it's also been big data and data warehousing. And currently, I understand that Dipankar is working as a data engineering manager at OMERS in Canada. And throughout his career, he's designed and developed medium and large-scale data warehouses and delivered business-critical analytical solutions. So on top of this, he's also leading the Toronto Data Professionals community, the former Toronto PASS user group. So altogether, he has a diverse background from working in many different geolocations, including, as I mentioned, Denmark, but also the UK and Sweden. And on top of this, impressively enough, Dipankar is also writing a technical blog. He writes articles on SQL Server Central, and does lots of public speaking. So if you need a great keynote, I highly recommend Dipankar. That's enough from me. I think I'll leave it to Dipankar to say more about himself and then stop sharing. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. I'll share my screen now.
And of course, I'm sure everybody already know that you've already earned the MVP Data Platform Award, which is also very impressive.
Thank you so much, Emily. It's a great privilege to be here, and good morning. Oh, sorry, it's good morning from my side, but good evening and good afternoon wherever you feel located outside of Denmark. So we're going to talk about today data engineering, how as a data engineer in Microsoft, how you can use as Microsoft Fabric and empower your organization. Before I start, a little bit about myself. I think Emily already mentioned most of the stuff. So I've been working in this industry more than 14 years, and I got diverse background, grown up in South Asia, and then did my education from Sweden and UK, and then moved to Denmark, been there for long, and work in many different companies in Denmark. I still live is close to Lumbu and Bosvia and many other places. So it's my second home. I'm very glad to be here today and talking about this. And as also Emily mentioned, I'm leading one of the largest data professional community in Toronto. Also writing technical blog, doing public speaking, and doing all of the things. I've been awarded as a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional in 2022, which is I'm one of 12 in Canada in that category. I'm a big promoter of sustainable living, and I'm a father of 2 kids and husband of a beautiful wife. As I mentioned, since if you get a chance to join any of our event, what we do, I know it's a different geolocation, but time to time we also do the lunch hour at Canadian time. It means it could be your afternoon or evening, like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. That's the reason I put it here. So if you want to find it out in your meetup, just join this group. We have monthly session. We also have SQL Saturday event in October. It will be at Microsoft Toronto headquarters. If someone would like to come and join in person, fly here. If someone here in the audience have a speaker would like to speak at our event too, please feel free to reach to me. I'll post my LinkedIn profile. You're gonna get more about me there. Okay, enough about me. Let's look into what we covered today. What is Microsoft Fabric, of course, but as you see, all of the item here, it's all demo, right? So we're gonna actually go through the more technical stuff, but let's start with what is Microsoft Fabric. You can read this slide. In the meantime, I will actually talk about my involvement with the Fabric. I get to know about the Fabric in 2022. And that name at the time was not Fabric. It's called Trident, because when Microsoft come with any product they build, they have a code name. So the code name for this project was Trident. And being as a Microsoft MVP, I was able to get closely working with their engineering team, giving the feedback and getting to know more. So I know already about the Fabric. Now, if you have ever worked with Azure Data Factory, Azure Synapse Analytics, I know people have a lot of confusion. Okay, there was a Data Factory. Now we're coming to Azure Synapse Analytics. Now is another tool in Fabric. Well, it is another tool. Again, it's not another tool. So there is if you work with Azure Data Factory, you'll find a lot of things actually is there from Data Factory. From Azure Synapse Analytics, if you work with a notebook, for example, that same notebook, you'll find it here. But there's a lot of improvement, a lot of new things that came in. And one of the things I really appreciate is one, security. And then, for example, I'll talk through even in the next slide, I'll tell you actually what the improvement was, and whenever if you work with, earlier phase with different ADF and notebook, so what to choose and for what type of task when you're doing, I'll talk about all the things. But I would say, if you ask me, what is your opinion? Because since Microsoft has actually introduced a different tool in the last few years, I would say there's a lot of improvement here, and it's a kind of revolutionary, I could say, in terms of how easy it become to even work with. Let's dive into it. Before we start looking into the Fabric, I think it's important for us to know a bit of licensing model. I'm not Power BI expert, but if you're a Power BI expert, probably you know better than me. However, I'll only talk about the Fabric experience. If you would like to have it, what type of license you need. So if you look at here, especially all Fabric experience, I mark here, you need to have premium power capacity. And you can also have Fabric capacity. And if you never start with the Fabric, I would say you go with the trial. And that will help you to start with. However, when I'll be in the next slide, the next step is to showing you how to even provision your Fabric. When I'll do it, it's for your organization how you do it. It's the same thing as a trial, but I will actually cover what you need to be aware of when you are provisioning the Fabric for your organization, what challenges you may have. I mean, I learned through my challenge, I was going to share that with you. But in terms of licensing, at least you need to have one of them, like either premium or Fabric capacity or the trial one. Okay, so our demo is starting now. Oops. Okay. So first we'll go to the portal. I think if you all know about the portal, Azure portal, you're working in Azure. So first things what you do is you need to create your resource. So if I go and search for Fabric, I'll find the Microsoft Fabric, and then I'll start creating by hitting the create button. And then, for example, this is the sandbox environment from my organization. However, I need to, just give me a second, I need to give the right resource group. So you have to put the right resource group here. You can create a new resource group, and then you can give a name. For example, if I gave resource name as a capacity name, say Denmark user group or Fabric user group. And then you can, choose your region. You can size, put the capacity. You can change the size. Sorry, it has to be only small letter. Cannot be capital or any. User group, Fabric. Just put it here. And then you can actually change the size. When I started, especially in the sandbox, I just used the very minimum one, because if you, for example, if you put say F8, you can see the estimated cost around it. And if I select it, and then I can go and review, sorry. And as you see, the estimated cost per month will be 1,000 Canadian dollar. And as long as I hit the create, it will create my Fabric capacity. However, I'll not create it because I already have created one. That is the one, trial. Now, I remember like the very first time when I created it, I got this and I thought, okay, where to go from here? Especially if you're working with Azure Portal, you generally, you have the resource created, then you have to click and go back to, you can have a link and you can go to the portal. However, this one is more like a Power BI. So it means app.fabric, it will give you that portal. So if I go app.fabric, as I said, for Power BI, you go to like app.powerbi, Microsoft.com is similarly they put it. So it means even though in the portal you don't have the link, but if you go here, if you come here, you'll be able to see the Fabric. So we have just provisioned the Microsoft Fabric. Now let's see what are you gonna do the next. Well, I also have, give me a second, I'll just paste it. The things I just did, I have, since I do blog, I'm gonna share the link with you folks where you're gonna find a step-to-step guide I did long back, I think last 2023 sometime. Okay, our demo is done now. As I mentioned, this is the way I did. It's for your how you do for the organization. But some of the things you must need to consider or need to remember. Tenant settings enablement. What is that? It is something that as a tenant level from organization, you have to enable your Microsoft Fabric. So I'll show you. So if I go here and click here, and if I click my admin portal, see this is admin portal, but even in my organization, I don't have a lot of access here. It means I had to reach to IT and ask them, hey, can you please enable them as a organization wise? I'll show you how it's look like from the organization side. So see, those things, as you see, it's not here for me. I have only one menu here on the left side, 1, 2, 3, this one. However, who is the tenant settings, or sorry, admin to the portal, they can change that tenant settings and they need to say, hey, I would like to enable that tenant setting either to the entire organization, or can they choose like a specific security group? Like you can have 80 groups. So for example, to start with, you may have, this department should only have Fabric capacity or to start playing with the Fabric, not whole organization. So that only possible by the tenant admin. And then one more thing I would like to also talk about, you'll find out that there's a workspace associated with this Fabric capacity. If you're probably familiar with this, if you're working the Power BI, for example, you have your own workspace, you can have some shared workspace, and then also you need to make sure that you have the administrative rights in the Fabric capacity level. I'm not talking about the as a tenant admin. It's a Fabric admin. I'll show that what I mean here. See, sorry. here, as you see, if I click here, and the first thing I was talking about workspace. So if I click here, I'll be able to find out all the workspace. For example, this is my workspace, some other workspaces are there. And then there's admin permission, where I'm not enabling it for a while because my colleagues' names are also there. So it's who have the admin permission, they will able to see those or can give you the contributor permission to work with like ADF and all sort of things. So there's two levels of security, as you say, sorry, administration, not the security, administration. One from the tenant level, who are either Microsoft Office 365 or Power BI admin. As a tenant level, they have to enable for your organization. Then as a capacity level, you can do this from here. Okay, now we'll go back. If you have any question, feel free to raise your hand, or Emily, you are here, you can probably help me with that question. I can happy to take any time.
Yes, now, so I see one question here from Torkil, and sure. He is actually mentioning, can you set it up by Terraform?
Oh, Terraform. I'm not sure, actually. It is still available through Terraform. I know, for example, Data Factory and Snaps, they're already kind of, already a few years there. You can do all things through them, but I don't know. I probably can look into it and get back to you. Terraform, I'm just taking note. Yeah, thank you. Okay. No, data engineering with Fabric, it means what you need to know, because in Fabric cover a lot of different things. But for you, as a data engineer, as your Data Factory is there, you need to know what it does, and the Lakehouse, the warehouse, and the notebook. So, and then let me see what we have in the next. Yeah. Before even I go to Data Fabric, in the specific to Azure Data Factory, I'm just going to show you here. When I provision it, and when I was there in the portal here, and at the very first page, if I go, as you see, the things that's listed here, all of them, like not all of them, so it is all the capabilities you have through the Fabric, and these are the things that you need to know. Data Factory, Snaps Data Engineering, which is the like notebook, and if someone from data science team they would like to do, then they have the capabilities too, and the data warehouse. So it means out of this 6 box, as a data engineer, actually you need to work with the Data Factory, data engineering things, warehouse, also real time. If something real time is there, you need to understand, you need to know that. However, today focus will be more like Data Factory, Snaps Data Engineering, and data warehouse. So now I'll go back again here. First, we'll talk about the Data Factory in Fabric, and we'll show you the demo. So in Data Factory, as a high level, you have 2 components to it, or feature, I could say. One is data flow, and another is data pipeline. So what is data flows? Data flows is a very low code environment, and you have a lot of transformation inbuilt. You can just use it. If you are already familiar with Excel and Power BI, and Power BI, you can start with the data flow. It's easy. And then come like your data pipeline. If you already have worked with any ETL tool, it doesn't need to be Microsoft, like a tool, any ETL tool you use in on-prem or cloud, it is the same things. Like you have a copy activity, you can loop the things with a for each, you can check the data quality, a lot of things is under there. I'll show these 2 things. So this is the time for demo. So we're going to talk about the data pipeline and the data flows. Okay, so first, as you see all this item here. Also, if you come to the Microsoft Fabric on the left and click on the Data Factory, you will be able to see these 2 things, data flow and the data pipeline. So as I mentioned, let's start with the data flow Gen 2. if I click here, it started giving me name. I can always change it. I can say, hey, DK user group, that's there. And then I can either import from my Excel and then start working on it. And if we work with Power BI, you probably can see the very similar look and feel. And then you can import from SQL Server, CSV, and data flows, and then you start working on it. Let's start showing you as a very simple use case where I'm gonna get a file with order details or order related information. Then you're gonna see what it can be done. For example, doing some very small transformation. So I'll go here, and I can either, I can actually connect from OneDrive. I can put this, the share any shared location here, and I can connect there. I can also upload from my file. So if I browse it, I have Fabrics. I think this is not the one I wanted to get. Let me find out. Okay, I think this is fine. It should also work. Okay, now I can select the things. I can create it. And for example, very simple things you do. There's a customer name. I would like to do some transformation, right? I can just split the column by delimiter. And then I say, when there's a space, split that. As you see in the, in the name, there is a space, first name, in between first name and last name. I can create it. I can give a name. So there's two column has been created. So I can tell this is the first name. I can also tell it's the last name. And of course, as you see, probably, I just want to delete this. Remove columns. Well, this is just an example. Of course, if you have something when you're doing this first name and last name, and if something is fall into another column, you don't delete it. It means that you have some, the way it has been separated is not right. So you must need to make sure that how you're doing it is right. So I'm just putting it as given an example what you can do. There is a lot of things you can do. As you mentioned, more than 300 transformation and different tasks you can do. And then after you do it, what do you need to do next? So you get a file, you need to transform it. It means you need to move it to somewhere else. You need to probably either create a table and put into another place. So there is a data destination. So if you click it here, hope you're able to see it. There is a SQL database, there is Lakehouse, there is Data Explorer and Warehouse. So if I click Warehouse, and I will able to actually get those, and if I push it, the data will be in the warehouse. So I'll cancel it. I already have created one. I will show you from there. So if I go to my workspace and I go to the data flow orders that has been created, it's the very same one I was showing you. And as you see, there is already the data destination as a warehouse. And this is the warehouse where the data should be. And how it will go, as long as you click the publish button, the data will be in your warehouse. So I'll not even publishing it because the data is already there. I published it. I'll show you. If I close from here and I find out my warehouse, I can go in different way. I can go into my warehouse. I can search here as my warehouse. See, all the warehouses are there. This is the one. Or also I can go actually from here by clicking the data warehouse, and I will able to see my warehouses are there too. So when I'm here and the data is coming, this is the table that has been actually built. Last time when I was actually presenting to one of the user group called Edmonton, that's the reason it's order ED here. And you'll able to see that column has been separated. See, there's a first name, last name that has been, that's how it's been separated. It means you can do a lot of things with this data flow. Now, we understood the data flow. I'll pause here if you have any question. If not, I'll move into the next one. It's called copy activity. No? Okay. Now we're gonna go again to my data factory, and you see, now I can create a data pipeline. As soon as I click it, it's gonna ask you a name. I'll say pipeline as a short, then I'll say DK Fabric user group. I'll create the pipeline. As you see, you can do a lot of stuff here. You can start with the pipeline activity. You also start with the guidance. It means, copy data assistant is there. And you also have some sample data. There are some template. So this is very helpful if you're starting new and you just would like to try it out. Then in that case, actually, you can use any one of the template to start with. Here, if I start with any blank canvas, I'll just click it. I'll say, as you see, there's a lot of things you can do with the pipeline activity. You can have you will have a copy data. You can have the data flow, like the things we just created it. We can take the data flow inside this pipeline and run it. And then you have a lot different control, activities here, like metadata. If you wanted to look up something, and if you want to get the metadata, if you want to control some of your flow, like if condition, filter, for each, append, if you ever work with any ETL tool, you are very familiar with all those things. And then Azure Databricks, if you want to get it, and batch processing things you can take, and something new that has been still in preview, which I really like. For example, after your pipeline is done, or anything you'd like to send an email, you can incorporate that easily. Earlier, I remember in our project, we had to go through and use the Power Apps to do it, different things, but now it's the out-of-the-box solution. And the notebooks and script, store procedure, a lot of other things is there. Let's create a pipeline activity with copy data. So simple copy data will have your source and the destination. So sources, of course, if you look into it, the source data could be in your workspace, where it could be in Lakehouse or in your storage, and you can always tell, hey, this is coming from a Lakehouse. Or if the data is coming from external sources, then you will find out a lot of different external sources, right? You can get the data from Amazon. You can get the data from Google, Oracle, you name it, SAP, a lot of even outside vendor, not only from Microsoft. And when it's come to most of the cases in our organization, we call the API. So as you see, there is a many connection. However, there is not possible to have all of the connection. For example, we work with Workday, which is human resource portal, and then ServiceNow, if you know that any ticket you create, those things are not there. How do that? Then there is this one, REST API. You can use the REST API to connect anything. You also have HTTP. So anything you want to connect, you have that option from the external. Then you also have sample data set. And this is something that you introduced recently. And say, for example, you can, if you're learning, say, okay, we're learning here, we'll take the New York taxi data. And it'll load the data. And you're going to take those and build something. Okay, it's taking some time loading data preview. So it's going to show you some, what type of data you have here. Then you're going to get it from there.
And while it's loading, I saw that we had a question in the chat asking if the PowerPoint would be available or if it could be available as a PDF.
You mean Power BI or Power?
No. So the PowerPoint you have been showing
PowerPoint
with all the good information.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking about it. Yeah, sure. I'll be sharing that. I'll be sharing with you, Emily. Then you can distribute that. Yeah.
And I have a question while we are at it. So how I've asked this question in other groups, Deepankar. How do you learn? I mean, I know that it's learn.microsoft.com, but those are very simple things. They show you do this, but how do you take that knowledge and apply to a bigger organization like OMERS or other big firms? How do you bridge that gap from simple stuff to more complex and usable skills?
Yeah, it's a very good question. For example, when I was going through this installing or provisioning the very first one for our organization, then I found all the documents in the Learn, whatever. It doesn't say all of this. Well, it's probably there, but here and there, it's not really all together at one place. So how do I study it? Like, I would say whoever in your organization either work with Azure Data Factory or any ETL tool, you probably would like to take those persona in the organization and start with them because they already have those knowledge how to start with, and they can find out what should be the right way to go. And in terms of learning, I found something related to in LinkedIn. They have very, very good resource. Again, I don't know how much is depth they went through. Answer to your question is it's really depend now, but you have to start somewhere. For example, you start learning by doing it. That's the way I think I will take that at the first step. And then now Microsoft is also good. For example, if your partner is a Microsoft and you started something and you don't know, you start, you can send them email. I think now they're actually helping. And feel free to reach me. I'll be happy to assist also if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks. Well, as you see, those are the New York Taxi very simple data. I think it's more than GB data here. However, it's just sample data showing. So if I click here, my source is there. So it means the data is coming from sample data set, and then it needs to move to my destination. Then I can choose with my existing data set I already have created, or I can, well, since this is external, I'm sorry, before I was just moving ahead. So there is two different ways, right? So you can choose from workspace. Workspace is your lakehouse or your storage, what is already connected with the workspace. And as you see, even in the workspace, you have different options. You can choose lakehouse, you can KQL database, warehouse. Mostly, if it is not anything with your stream data, like the data coming now, then it will go to KQL. Other cases, you can choose lakehouse and warehouse. Warehouse more for your structured data, but all other cases lakehouse. If you ask me what is preferable for our case in our organization, we always choose the lakehouse because lakehouse can have your non-structured data, structured data too. However, some cases you may also want to build warehouse. The way I see in the organization heading towards many organizations with the self-serve capabilities, in that case, some business unit can say, hey, I would like to build my own warehouse. And well, you have that freedom. You can build it. But for us, or in my particular team, I always go encourage using the lakehouse. And then I can choose the lakehouse, and then I already have the lakehouse created. If not, you can always go and create, for example, new. If you go to the new, and you can just give a name. And if I just say lakehouse DG, and then it will just create a lakehouse. However, since it's already there, I'll just choose it. And then it will tell you how you want to have the data. Is it the table or files? I have chosen the table. Then I can give a name. Say I'm going to give a name as a DBO and say taxi, right? New York taxi. Okay. I'll just put as a taxi or New York taxi. And then whenever I'm going to run it, click the run, and it will actually get the data from sample data that's provided from New York taxi and move into this lakehouse. So now how am I going to show you that? I can go and, okay, so I need to go to my workspace and see this is my semantic model. And if I go to, I have, as you see, there is two options here. Either you can choose SQL endpoint or lakehouse. So if I click lakehouse and open it, it will take me through the lakehouse. And you see there is a New York taxi. And if I click it, the data has been loaded. So I ran that pipeline earlier and all the data there. Now, someone probably thinking about, well, you have lakehouse and then you also have SQL Analytics endpoint. What are the differences are? So lakehouse is where your data is lying on. However, endpoint is to giving you, whereas like us, like me, who are like very big fan of SQL. Most of the cases, I think, SQL is there for decades and decades. So it means a lot of people in the organization, they're very comfortable with SQL. It means if I choose, now I switch to SQL endpoints, you'll see what it does. Now I'll go to this New York taxi. I'll have that option to create the SQL query. So I'll go select top 100, or I can also go and say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna just count it. Select, count, stir from my New York taxi, right? I'll just drag and drop and run the query. It's gonna give me, oh, see, there's a 76 million records there. And that's so easy, who are expert in the SQL, they feel like home because you can create a view. And think about this, all the data in the lakehouse. So it's a Parquet Delta format, but it's under the hood. You don't have to think about how the data is. It doesn't matter. You're expert in a SQL. You can create the view, you can create the function, you can create the store procedure. It's not opening because I don't have any, but I have the table, so you can only see the table. If you have any question, because now we cover two things from here, which is data flow and data pipeline. And data flow, if you're expert or in Excel or Power BI, is a low-code environment, you can just drag and drop, do a lot of transformation. For the data pipeline, it's the movement, and you can transform the data too, and you can schedule the pipeline. I'll show that later. Those like the two main components when it's come to data factory part of it. Okay, now if we don't have any question, now time to jump into notebook experience. What is notebook? Notebook is a choice of tool where you can write the code from your choice of the language. For example, if you're good at Python, you can use Python to write the code. You have a PySpark, which is a SQL-like language, like SQL. If you're good at SQL, you're gonna have this magic code like SQL, and you can actually start writing the SQL with almost 99% cases SQL. There are other languages too. And if you're a data scientist and you'd like to do your machine learning solution, your experiment, your model, you can do using the notebook experience. I'll not go into data science part because I'm not the expert in that area. I'll focus on only the data engineering side of it. Okay, demo for another one. Okay. We go again here and we click the data engineering. You see? Here you got a lakehouse, notebook, Spark job definition, data pipeline. We're gonna create a notebook. So I click a notebook, and when you're in the notebook, what do you want to do? You either want to do the transformation. Most of the cases, you want to probably join many different tables, or specific cases, for example, any business logic you may have, you want to implement that. Or we work with very sensitive data from HR. It means some of the data need to be masked and no one able to see it, no one able to unmask it. It means you use SSH2 as a hashing algorithm, or not only that, you also add the salt to it, right? Then people will not able to revert back anyway. That's where you need to have the notebook to implement those logic or those, business logic or any kind of complex rules you want to set up. The start of it, what you need to do is you need to connect with the lakehouse. So let me add a lakehouse, existing lakehouse, and I have an existing lakehouse. I'll go to use that, add it. As long as I, click it, as you see, the table has been showing, also file is showing it too. So if I click order, I have this data, Azure employee data as a CSV. And what I can do is, it's become super easy, even from the snaps, right? I can just drag and drop here, and my code has been generated. I remember, like, when I started snaps, even to, fast line up code, there is a link service. You have to have the data set, and you have to, write your code and just to get this data, to show this data, how the data look like. But here, you just drag and drop, and okay, I need to connect it first. What I'm doing is connecting to the Spark engine, because behind it, the notebook Spark engine is running. So session has been started. Well, I can tell you something amazing. 1 or 1.5 months back, when I was presenting this very similar one at Edmonton User Group in Canada, to enable that, it was taking 7 minutes. I know that. I had to enable that earlier before the session. So I knew it was like 7 minutes. Now it's like 3 seconds. So it's very good improvement. I think just a few weeks back, they have improved it. Now I'm running it to show you the data. So see, this is the data. This is employee information. You got first name, last name, you got the salary. Now I would like to mask this salary data, and maybe phone number, maybe first name. Why I'm saying maybe, because I have a code. From here, I'll take you to the code, to my already built code, and show you from there. Let me go to my workspace, and my notebook is this one here. So as you see, if you're here, the very same data. There's no changes. So I'm not cheating here. So it's the first name, last name, and salary, right? Now, see, the main things we do with the notebook is, as I mentioned, this is employee data. I would like to mask it with SSH2 function and 256. Not only that, to make sure no one actually can revert it back by looking at the pattern of the data. For example, if you just do or use SSH2 hash function, and then it has actually some type of pattern. For example, if your salary is, say, $60,000, and if other people also have 60,000, that when hash generated this number or any kind of combination of different letters and things, you will actually have very same number, same things generated. However, if you put the salt in it, then those pattern is gone, because it's the pattern you will not able to find it out. That's the reason I have added the salt. So what I'm doing is I'm masking with salt the first name, phone number, and the salary. So first, what I did is I have the data in this data frame we called, and then as you see, this is the same data frame. Then we are creating a view out from that employee data set, And this is the salt I'm building. This is a kind of, random number generating it. And then random number has been added, concatenated with employee ID, email, and you have the hired date. Okay, we're not taking hired date, we're doing it here, salary. So these 3 columns. And then to display this, after we are actually displaying this mask employee data, that's the data frame. And after we're displaying it, okay, let me display that. If I run all, okay, I know that's coming because I have very little space. And since I have already used the other one, let me close that. Or maybe I just need to connect it. Let's see, that is the reason. Okay, it's not. So it means I have to go here, close this other one, and then starting session. Let's see. You'll find out, we find out even from snaps, because we started just the fabric. Most of the cases use this as your snaps analytics in the notebook when you do transformation. And due to that limited, if you have this queue that I have to, if you remember at the very beginning, I mentioned there was a 64 and then 8 and 16. If you have the less or smaller set you choose from those different options you have, then you will find out this kind of issues where it will say, hey, it's the status code 430 is more about like your Spark cluster is run out of your memory, and there's a reason it's giving this issue. Why not we do it? So I can take this copy, because since the other one is running, I can go to my workspace. I know I just created this one here, and I can write this code. As you see, copy it and run it. Let's see if it's run here. No, maybe some difference in the code. Start session is taking still time, but however, we'll move on. But when the session will be started, I'll run it again. What it does it generally, it will, as you see, the first name, phone number, and the salary. So first name, phone number, and the salary, it will be completely masked, and no one will be able to see it, and it's irreversible. That's the thing. It's what it is doing. Okay, we have done our notebook. So, you probably will be now, if you're starting just now or recently, you may have the question about, you talk about the pipeline, you talk about the data flow, and you also talk about the notebook. Like when you see this Spark, actually, I mean to say this is Spark. Well, before I'm moving ahead, this slide, I got it from Christian Cody, who is my mentor and who is Microsoft MVP, is based in Canada, in Montreal. He is well-known in the industry for a long time. He's working like more than 25 or 30 years. And I actually borrowed this from him, but I'll probably update in the future where, for example, this is Spark, though it's more about the notebook with the Spark. So as you see, use case. When you need to have the data lake, data warehouse migration, or data ingestion, you can have the pipeline and copy activity. And when you have, like, you need to do the transformation, data wrangling, profiling, you can use the data flow gen 2. And for Spark, similar, like you need to do the transformation and data processing, profiling, ingestion, you can use the Spark. Those are the use cases we're talking about. Very similar use case, actually, you can handle through different type of activity you have or feature you have, like data flow, data pipeline, or Spark. Now it's come to then, okay, this very similar things that does, then who will be the right person actually to choose from the 3 different tracks? It's similar, again, data engineer, data integrator, data engineer, but here, as you see, business analyst, because as I mentioned, if you are from Excel expert or if expertise, or you are good at the Power BI, a lot of things I can do with the data flow. And here is more like data engineer, data scientist, and data developer. Developer skill set in this case, like it's ETL, SQL, JSON, data flow is ETL, M language is there, mQuery and SQL. Here is mostly your, as I mentioned, Python, Spark, SQL, which I just mentioned, is very SQL-like language. You can also write this in SQL, Scala, R. And data volume doesn't matter, all three, low to high. Development interface is as you see, it's a wizard-based and Canvas. You can do the pipeline activity, and this one is more like Power Query, and this one, as you see in the code, into the notebook. And the connected, it's more about connection, though. It's just sources and destination. It's like a lot of connector. I think it's always growing. So this number is 30 plus. It could be already more than that. Data flow similar, and you have libraries in the Spark when you're gonna work with the notebook. You can actually call this or import this library and work on it. So as an example, you saw when I was doing masking, this is the inbuilt function I used. I didn't have to really invent something from myself to use the SASA2 hash algorithm. So, and there's a lot of if you wanted to have duplicate or deduplicate, or, you have tons of things here you can do. And complexity wise, it's a low complexity. You can do lighter type conversion whenever you need. For example, sometimes we can have the pipeline copy activity, but most cases we have to use actually the notebook, because business logic is there, the complex transformation is there, then a lot of things you cannot do with the only copy activity. However, pipeline need to be there. For example, I'll show you, you built a notebook, but how are you going to run it? You need to take that notebook and put into the copy activity. Okay, why not I show you so you understand what I mean. So we have this copy pipeline activity, this one, right? So you have this copy activity, source to destination, but that's fine. But for example, you need to, you have already created a notebook. How are we going to run it? Notebook will not run itself. So you have this activity called notebook. You go there and you go under settings. You take that notebook. For example, last time we created this notebook 7, or we just, the one it should work is notebook HR employee data. You take it there from there. It means now we need to run it. How are you going to run it? You have to, of course, when you're developing it, you're going to run it to see if it is moving, or you can run from it notebook itself. But when you move this to UAT and production, then you generally do it, you do schedule the job. And you can tell, hey, you're going to run like how frequently, is it hourly, is it daily, weekly, and you're going to put the time on, and it's going to run every day or as per needed, right? That's the things I was mentioning here. Okay, let's see what you have. Yeah, we talk about the warehouse, we talk about the lakehouse. You probably have, we may be thinking, what's the difference then? Here is the difference. From the lakehouse, and you have the read-only access through the SQL endpoint. Because if you remember, I have shown you, we have a lakehouse endpoint, SQL endpoints. If you have the lakehouse, you will have only read-only access. However, if you have the warehouse, you can do your T-SQL with the warehouse. You can merge it, you can insert, update, whatever you want to do, you can do it through the warehouse. So warehouse is kind of, old days, whenever people didn't have the lakehouse, all the structured data, you still have to have the warehouse. Then you choose this warehouse, but the data, considered data will be still sitting in your lake as a storage, a similar type of ADL storage into, but Microsoft has improved a lot in this area where you will not even find out the difference. This is it is really, really great things what we got through the Fabric. Okay. Now as I mentioned at the beginning, if you're coming from Data Factory or, for example, Snaps somewhere, and now you're in the Fabric, I think someone you were asking about, to get deeper into it, how actually you're going to do it. This is one of the things that can help if some of the team member using the Data Factory have some knowledge, and this will really help you that what was in the in Data Factory, when it's now in Fabric, what are the changes there? I love some of the changes I'm going to tell you. So we'll go one by one. So pipeline that's coming from Azure Data Factory is the same thing as data pipeline, not much different here. Earlier, there is just called the mapping data flow. Mapping data flow is gone. It's not there. It's now called data flow Gen 2. Activities, it remains very similar. No changes there. Activity is nothing but copy activity for each. You do a lot of stuff as I shown you. Those are the activities, so nothing changes here. However, data set is gone. I mean, I was so happy to when I started with the Fabric, saying, say, for example, when I'm showing you the demo, to even get a one file, I had to go through 3 different steps. Like first, you need to go to the Azure integration runtime. Then you connect it to link services. Then you create the data set just to show you the data. But those all 3 things is gone. So I'll go one by one. Data set is not there. You don't have to think about it. Link service, well, it's not gone the same connection. It's just that the only thing is you just connect the data set, the data or file or database, whatever, your data is just there. And the trigger has changed with schedule, a schedule as it just show you. And when you publish, earlier it used to call publish, now it's a save and run. It's not much differences, rather like how you run it. This one, as I was just talking about, is gone. So it means earlier you got integration runtime, data set, and the link service. Those all 3 together. Why not I take this one highlighter? This one, and this one. Those 3 together is only one thing. That's the connection. So I just loved it because a lot of complexity has gone away. When I'm talking about also other things is earlier it was in Snaps or Data Factory, it was a past solution. Consider that if I have to work with the notebook, I had to install the Spark cluster separately. I had to go through the different, manage private environment. I had to literally provision a separate VM to run self-hosted integration runtime. It is all done. We don't have to do it. Microsoft is managing everything behind the scene. Okay, I'm just looking at the time. I think, okay, we're good. So what do you cover today? We cover licensing model and provisioning the Fabric. We went through different components, ADF, Notebook, Lakehouse, and we also went through what to choose when, and also feature mapping things, like ADF versus Snaps versus Fabric. So I'm good there, and thank you.